Imagine the world's most powerful military turning its attention to one of the most strategically critical countries in the Middle East. Most people immediately jump to thoughts of missiles, oil prices, or political upheaval, but the reality is far deeper than that. This isn't just a conflict, it's a pattern. A pattern so consistent, so predictable that once you recognize it, you cannot ignore it. And today, the United States appears to be stepping right into the final stage of this historical cycle. Let's put this in perspective with numbers. $35 trillion. That's the U.S. national debt in late 2024. It grows at nearly $2 trillion a year. An unavoidable fact. And the military footprint, over 150 bases scattered across the globe, more than any other empire in recorded history. Rome managed around 40, the British Empire maybe 70, and the U.S. has surpassed them all. So what happens when a nation burdened with overwhelming debt tries to maintain the largest military presence the world has ever seen? History offers a clear answer: collapse. But it's not chaotic or random. It follows a four-stage pattern observed in every major empire. And right now, the U.S. is entering the final phase. Understanding the four-stage empire cycle. Empires don't collapse overnight. They follow a repeating pattern of rise, expansion, crisis, and transition. Rise and foundation. Nations rise through innovation, productivity, and sound monetary policy. Wealth is created. Trade is dominated. Currencies gain global trust. This golden period builds confidence, with people believing the empire is permanent and exceptional. Expansion and overreach. With wealth comes military expansion, securing trade routes, establishing bases, projecting force worldwide. But expansion is costly. Maintaining dominance costs more than most empires generate in wealth. Crisis and monetary strain. To cover shortfalls, empires debase currency and print money. Inflation rises, debt escalates, and foreign nations diversify. Military force can no longer fix monetary problems. Attempts to maintain control often accelerate collapse, transition, or decline. Currency collapses, military contracts, alliances shift, and a new power emerges. History repeats this pattern across centuries, from Rome to Britain. Lessons from historical empires? Rome, 3rd century AD. Rome dominated the Mediterranean and had the world's most trusted currency, the denarius. Wars, military costs, and public spending drained resources. To cope, they debased the currency. Prices soared. Economic stability crumbled. Military might couldn't save it. By the 5th century, Rome was gone. Spain, 16th to 17th century. Spain ruled the Americas, controlled vast wealth, and had a dominant currency, the Spanish real. Continuous wars, currency debasement, and overspending led to rampant inflation, economic collapse, and loss of global power. Britain eventually rose as the new dominant empire. Britain, 20th century. Britain had the largest empire, a powerful navy, and a trusted pound. World wars drained finances. Borrowing and money printing only delayed the inevitable. By the 1950s-60s, Britain's global influence had diminished, and the U.S. emerged as the new superpower. Build wealth and trust a currency. Expand militarily and overextend. Debase currency and attempt control through force. Collapse and transition. Applying the pattern to the United States. The U.S. mirrors this pattern closely. Foundation. Post-World War II boom. Bretton Woods, empires don't collapse overnight. Made the dollar a repeating pattern of rise, expansion, crisis, and transition. Pegged to the dollar, which was pegged to gold. Expansion. Military interventions. Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. Over 150 overseas bases. Defense spending exceeding the next 10 nations combined. The military acted as an enforcement tool for dollar dominance. Crisis. 1971, Nixon ends gold standard. Dollar becomes fiat. Debt skyrockets from $400 billion to $35 trillion. Massive printing leads to inflation. Foreign nations begin trading outside the dollar. BRICS countries explore alternatives. Military power cannot solve monetary issues. Force only delays the inevitable. The role of Iran. Iran is strategically crucial. Controlling the Strait of Hormuz, 20% of global oil. trading oil outside the dollar system, aligned with China, Russia, and other nations. Any U.S. strike risks regional escalation, oil price spikes, and global economic disruption. Inflation surges, global markets destabilize, and the dollar's trust erodes further. The reality of Stage 4. Collapse unfolds gradually, not overnight. Currency devaluation, military contraction, and shifting global alliances are the key markers. The U.S. may face reduced influence as global power redistributes, likely to China, Russia, and BRICS nations. Advanced technology and military superiority cannot prevent a currency collapse. Exceptionalism is no shield. Countries and businesses start holding fewer dollars, demanding other currencies instead. Military contraction. Maintaining over 150 overseas bases is expensive. With debt rising and financial pressures mounting, the U.S. may be forced to scale back its global footprint. Fractured alliances. Countries that once depended on U.S. economic and military power may seek new partnerships. Nations like China, Russia, and India could increase their influence in global trade and politics. Economic volatility. Markets may experience more frequent and intense shocks. Inflation could surge, interest rates could rise unpredictably, and global trade might face disruptions. This stage doesn't necessarily mean complete chaos or societal collapse. It's messy, uncertain, and often slow. History shows us that empires like Rome, Spain, and Britain didn't vanish overnight. Instead, they experienced gradual structural decay, giving way to new powers over decades. For the U.S., signs of Stage 4 are already visible. Increasing discussions around alternative currencies in BRICS nations, rising energy partnerships outside the dollar system, ongoing geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and the Indo-Pacific. The critical insight is this: Stage 4 is about transformation, not destruction. It's about a rebalancing of global power, where the dominance of a single empire gradually shifts to a more multipolar world. The U.S. remains incredibly strong in many areas, but historical patterns suggest that structural pressures are mounting and inevitable. Shifts are underway. Part 5. Preparing for a systemic shift. Understanding Stage 4 is not just academic, it's practical. If you want to navigate this period effectively, there are concrete strategies. Recognize the long-term nature of the shift. This isn't a one-year crisis. Expect changes to unfold over 5-15 years. The world is moving toward a multipolar financial and political system. Diversify your wealth. Reduce dependence on dollar-denominated assets. Invest in hard assets such as gold, silver, real estate, and commodities. These have historically retained value through currency, collapses, and financial crises. Consider international exposure. Currencies, equities, or bonds in stable foreign markets can act as a hedge. Reduce personal and corporate debt. High debt becomes extremely dangerous during periods of inflation or economic uncertainty. Focus on paying down loans and avoiding new obligations that could become unmanageable. Develop adaptable skills and relationships. Economic and political shifts change job markets and global opportunities. Skills that are globally relevant, along with strong professional networks, provide resilience in an unstable environment. Understand systemic risks. Beyond personal finance, recognize that energy markets, international trade, and cybersecurity are vulnerable. A conflict like a U.S.-Iran confrontation could accelerate inflation, disrupt supply chains, and intensify geopolitical tensions. Think globally, act locally. While the global system shifts, your personal preparedness matters. Diversification, skill building, and strategic alliances help navigate both opportunities and risks. History teaches a key lesson. No empire believed it would fall. Rome thought it was eternal. Spain believed its American riches were infinite. Britain trusted its navy and currency. Each was wrong. Today, the United States has unmatched technology, military strength, and innovation. But history shows that these advantages cannot prevent structural decay in an empire. Power doesn't disappear, it redistributes. Understanding this allows individuals and nations to position themselves wisely for the emerging global order.